So hello and welcome back to Some Boy Online. Now today we've got a very special parcel from Cornishware, who if you didn't know are responsible for quite an iconic item within the Wallace and Gromit world. So we're going to be taking a look at the real life Wallace and Gromit mugs today, and I'm not talking about the Gromit shaped mugs that we've got back there. These are basically as good as screen used blue striped Cornishware mugs. So let's get into the box. So as you can see, this is denoted as fragile, and it is very much so. Thanks again to Cornishware for sending this out so quickly. They actually released around the time of Vengeance Most Fowl, but I don't think too many people know about this, so I'm more than happy to kind of shine some light on it. Okay, so lots of bubble wrap, open it out, and there we go, and see the product. Nobody else can. There they are on the box, and let's get them out. As you can see, the mugs are presented in this lovely box, which is adorned with the signature Cornishware stripes, which of course many of us associate with Wallace and Gromit. This is where we recognise these mugs from, but they were actually a thing as far back as the 1920s. Cornishware is an established British brand of crockery, basically. You know, your mugs and teapots and plates and bowls and all of that stuff that you'd find in the kitchen. As that happens, the early Wallace and Gromit films actually based some of their props around this design, which presumably is the kind of thing Nick Park grew up with. So to come full circle, Cornishware have released mugs based upon the mugs in Wallace and Gromit that are based upon their designs. So yeah, the box is really lovely. Cornishware logo, Wallace and Gromit logo, and there is the other side. Lovely, clean, slick design, and pretty much the same information, but with this lovely new render of Wallace and Gromit and the Cornishware mugs. It's lovely to see this as a big fan of Curse of the Were-Rabbit. These mugs were a big part of the promotion for that. So it's great to see them back after they were seemingly replaced by the plain white versions. And Wallace and Gromit use a few different mugs throughout the latest film, but always a joy to see these ones in particular. And it's somehow taken us this long to notice that these are actually a different design from the ones in Were-Rabbit. Did anyone else notice? These have 3 blue stripes and 2 white ones in the middle, whereas the stripes on the originals are a bit thinner with an additional white line on the top and bottom. This was changed in Vengeance Most Fowl, and that is what these mugs are based off. So yeah, let's get them opened up. There is the bottom, which is just the plain Cornishware stripes. It appears there are just flaps. Yep, there's flaps embedded in the side, which allows them to be opened. Your standard Cornishware mugs would look like this. It's already a lovely design. These are deemed to be high quality crockery that, you know, if you're pushing the boat out and want that classic kind of aesthetic, you'd go for these. Gently prise them out. There is the Wallace mug. And go for the Gromit one. They are just snugly in here. And there is a different type of Gromit mug on the channel. I'll put this box to the side. It's a lovely display box though. If you ever wanted to pop them back in, you can do so, which is great. I might switch them around and actually hold the handles. There are the Wallace and Gromit mugs. We're even matching with all the blue. Look at all the blue. So first thing to note about the mugs, when you compare them to the Wallace and Gromit film versions, like if you look, Wallace and Gromit's hands are huge. So in order to kind of look right when they pick up the mugs themselves have to be huge. So these are nicely human scaled, and obviously in line with the Cornishware brand. And second to note is the colour, the shade of blue. So these are Cornishware blue to match the rest of the line, but if you look at the mugs that Wallace and Gromit have, you might notice that they are a lighter shade of blue, and they have more of a matte finish. Now interestingly, if you look behind the scenes when they were creating these mugs, they actually get kind of glazed at some point so that the paint is protected and they're all nice and shiny. If you look at the before pictures, they are a perfect match to the Wallace and Gromit versions, but when the glaze is applied, it seems that they turn a darker colour, giving us this result. So just to mention that, as I'm sure people will notice, there is a slight difference. Another thing that makes these stand out is that they are actually like 3D in a way. The mugs aren't just flat, these stripes actually have depth. The whole thing is hand painted by real people, which is nice, and you can see that behind the scenes. Now I did a bit of research, and apparently Cornishware also did this for Were-Rabbit back in 2005. You can only find a few pictures, there's like a couple that come up on eBay, and funnily enough these actually have a lighter colour to them, but the stripes on the mug don't allow for a space for the leather on the front, so they just wrap all the way around. There's not a lot mentioned about those mugs other than the few pictures that I could find. But yeah, it's interesting because with each Wallace and Gromit film, obviously the aesthetic and the design of things change, and I always assumed these were made blue to complement the anti-pesto kind of brand design, and in a way this still will have been, but I had no idea that they were an actual product and that Cornish blue is a real thing. It was in fact Wallace and Gromit basing it off them. So even though the kind of theming and everything has changed for the new film, it's great to see these mugs back because the design is just so iconic and I love it. So they're a lovely kind of reminder of that era. But yeah, one of the first instances I'd seen of these mugs, or one of them, was when I got the chance to speak to Nick Park and Merlin Crossingham, the directors of Vengeance Most Fowl. And Merlin actually had a personalised M cup from Cornishware. So Merlin took that round at press interviews and stuff, whilst Nick wielded the Gromit mug. And also to note, Cornish blue is apparently a type of cheese, so whether that's intentional or not, I have no idea, but knowing Aardman, it's certainly possible. Now that we've had a look at them, I think there's only one thing left to do with these mugs, and that's to have a nice hot cup of tea.
Kettle should have boiled by now.
So, I'm back. Tea making instruments have been acquired. So, got your tea bag, got your bit of sugar in, and must need some boiling hot water. Of course, need to apply milk. There's a debate as to whether the milk should be applied before or after. I've always done it afterwards. Apparently the debate actually stems from different classes of people in the olden days used to do it differently. The reason being that the cheaper crockery was made of cheaper materials, so if you put boiling hot water straight into it, it might break. So the milk would be put in first to then cool down the boiling water. Whereas the richer people had better quality ceramics, probably such as Cornishware, so the milk can be applied afterwards. Then of course all that remains is a spoon to stir the tea. So now you've got the used tea bag, you of course consume this, and there we are. A long tea making session. So of course all that's left to do now is have a sip. And after talking for about 20 minutes about tea, that's nice. You know what? I'm gonna have these 2 cups of tea because why not? A splendid cup of tea if I do say so myself, only complemented by the fact that they're in Wallace and Gromit mugs, and not only that but official Cornishware ones. So overall I'm of course a big fan of these mugs. I don't know whether I'll be using them or displaying them, but it is a lovely design that's always been a favourite of mine, so it's really cool to see them realised. These brand collaborations are always cool and nice to bring some attention to a classic British company like Cornishware as well. I'm now radiating with heat from tea drinking for the past 10 minutes. It's funny because we've talked about Gromit mugs an awful lot on the channel, but we haven't done a lot of tea drinking. So it's some boy online drinking from a Gromit mug, just not the one you'd expect. There's one thing I've left to do to test these. Could possibly end in disaster, but cheers.